Copyright, intellectual property rights, have affected me quite significantly. I have quite a number of pictures with a stock photo house or a stock image library since 1994, so almost 20 years now, and it's been a significant part of my income stream. Again, one of those threads that all weave together to make the rope from which I dangle. It's constantly eroding. It's people, of course, don't really see it as stealing if they take something for free. And of course there are also voices that say we should do away with the concept of copyright altogether. But certainly for me, the idea of copyright has been very good in terms of finances, and there are still people out there willing to pay serious money in order to use an image. When I do my illustrations for the publishing world, I grant them first usage rights. I send them a reproduction license along with the invoice that clearly spells out that they have only first publishing rights. The original remains in my possession, and subsequent publishing rights are my property. So I have published many images. I mean, there are 2 images specifically that were bought and paid for back in the early 90s that have since generated probably close to $250,000 worth of revenue, because they get bought again and again and again and again. Not all of that revenue is for me, of course, alas, but the that has been a very important aspect of my life. How to safeguard against copyright infringement becoming an increasingly difficult question, because you have to put things online in order to promote yourself. The way I do it is to put everything that's online in very low resolution, so that's really not useful. You never put anything in high resolution that someone can just copy to their hard drive and then print from. I've tried to keep my eyes open for copyright infringement, but that's, of course, it's like the little boy holding his finger in the dike. You do your best. And I have actually discovered, quite by chance, some very serious copyright infringements where the original client then paid me very significant sums of money to make good on their misdeeds. So it has happened, but I'm sure a lot goes by that one doesn't. Also, people using an image that they paid for certain usage for other usage. I know that the company Masterfile, which is the image library with whom I have my images, they have a full-time person just looking through magazines, scouring the internet. They may even have more than one person now. The last I spoke to them, this person brought to the company about $600,000 in infringement penalties from various clients who had used or not clients who had used the images without permission. Something certainly to be aware of, something to be educated about. Sending out the reproduction license with the invoice goes a long way to reinforcing that, to clarifying that. I've had people buy originals off me and then assume that they have the right to publish them, which is not the case. And I have had people use images for more than they paid for. And then, of course, you have to enter a negotiation with them. Try to avoid going to any kind of court of law, because, as Danny DeVito said in The Wars of the Roses, there is no winning, there are only degrees of losing. So if one can do a mediated and negotiated settlement, that's always better. I don't believe I have any unique social or ethical beliefs. I just have the standard variety. which can be boiled down to a single sentence: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Everything else follows from that, and I try to act the same way in my professional dealings as I would in my personal life. I don't see any distinction. So always be good and kind, and but at the same time be vigilant. Don't be a pushover. Don't be a flake, if that's possible. For some people, it's harder than for others. 3 important factors that I could pass on. I mean, it depends a lot on what kind of art you're doing, whether you're working for the fine art market or whether you're working, as I am, in a field that some people wouldn't even consider art, more a kind of a craft or a sort of a related field. But if we're talking about graphic design, illustration, and those various other related fields or adjacent fields such as murals and sort of applied arts in general, I would say certainly, as in any other business, customer care is very important. Try to exceed customers' expectations within reason, again, without being a pushover. So there are 2 things really. Number 2 is keep your boundaries. Don't forget that it's a business relationship. Don't be so overjoyed that a client has given you a big job that you give them the farm. It is still a business relationship. Be aware of what you are worth. So that would be number 2. Guard your boundaries. So number 1 is exceed expectations. Client happy. A happy client is more likely to be a repeat client. And these days I actually rely mostly, not entirely, on word of mouth. The other factor is my online presence, which has generated a lot of business. But word of mouth is very important, and happy customers are going to make word of mouth propaganda for you. So number 2 is, don't forget that it's a business relationship. They may be friends, and some of my clients are good friends. Still business relationships. Put it in writing. That leads me to number 3. Don't make assumptions. Put it in writing. If you're doing a business deal, in my particular business, everything goes very fast because often the clients are completely under the gun. They've frittered away all their time with useless meetings and committee blah blah blah, and now they're under the gun, and the actual important part of the work is going to be done within 24 or 48 hours. So oftentimes these details get overlooked, but even if it's just an email confirmation of a phone conversation, that's better than nothing. But get it in writing. As a friend of mine once said, putting something in writing does not mean you don't trust something. It means that you want to put everything clearly out there so that everybody knows that what they think they said, the other person, is what the other person thinks they understood. If you don't trust them, don't put it in writing. Run screaming from the room. You have to trust the people that you work for. But still, don't be shy to put it in writing. Of course, don't make it excessively onerous or legalistic, and don't give them a 17-page contract or something. That would probably scare off any client. But, just something in writing. I have been in small claims court without something in writing, and was told in the preliminary hearing that I basically didn't have a leg to stand on. So that was a lesson learned. So those would be my 3 pieces of advice. Take very good care of your clients. I have always made it my prime rule is that assignments get handed in on time no matter what. My personal life may, go on the back burner for a bit. I may have to burn the midnight oil, but I deliver on time, and then I try to go and above and beyond. The client is looking for one concept, I will maybe suggest the second concept, which I think is maybe different or possibly even superior. Sometimes I'll deliver if it seems appropriate. I mean, when I say deliver, I mean deliver product myself, actually drive it over to the client. So the little extras definitely help, but then number two, don't go too far, don't be a doormat, don't be a pushover. The more you respect yourself, the more the clients will respect you. I have had so many conversations with illustrators and other artists who said, oh, I haven't been paid by this client for 90 days, I haven't been paid for 120 days. It almost becomes a contest as to how long your clients have held out on you. We, and I say we because my wife is sort of my financial, my CFO, if you will, and she is very hard-nosed, much more than I am, and I'm very grateful for that. But I have to say, we have, the times that we've had a problem with a client paying on time in 30 years, I can count on one hand. And that is because as soon as the job goes out, the bill goes out. Don't wait 7 days, 10 days. If you're sloppy with that, the client will automatically, without even thinking about it, feel that they could be sloppy with it too. And then whatever your terms are, be they COD, be they 15 days or 30 days, you know, when 2 days have gone by, phone up and say, or send an email and say, our records show that we have not yet received payment for this invoice. Please remit at your earliest convenience. So having that kind of an attitude yourself, in other words, respecting yourself, will automatically engender more respect from your clients for yourself. So, and then number three is, don't forget that you're having a business deal. Don't make assumptions. So often, you know, a client will come back and say, well, I thought, you know, for sure, well, all my other people have given me a proof, or all my other people have done this, or, you know, it wasn't specified. So the smallest things can trip you up, and then just a couple of words in writing at the right time would have saved everybody a lot of aggravation. So in other words, be businesslike, even though you're an artist, even if you're a fine artist. And if you can't be businesslike, and I do recognize that not everybody can, and I myself struggle with it, find someone, try to partner with someone who can. You know, if you're an artist, if you can find an agent who will take care of the business and you know, sometimes take off the gloves for you and go to bat for you. I'm mixing my metaphors, I'm sorry. But you know, if you can't do it, you know, have someone around who can be hard-nosed for you. It is a business if you want to make a living at it. Your bills will come due, and your creditors will want money from you, regardless of whether you're an artist or not. So you need to have the same attitude. And I know it's easier said than done. Believe me, I know. But I think it's very important. And that's something that people in the pursuit of their art is so easy to neglect. Because it's not as much fun as making art. It's not as much fun as networking even. You know, it's sort of a little onerous, a little unpleasant, but it's incredibly important. My wife says the job isn't done until the invoice is reached the client and the amount is in the ledger, basically. So that certainly is something a good habit to cultivate right from the beginning. Don't wait until you're established to have good business practices, because the business practices that you will have as a beginner, they will become your business practices as a seasoned professional as well. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with having proper business practices, just like any other business, right from the get-go. Two pieces of financial advice in closing. I would have to say, having done this for 30 years, I would have to say, if you are contemplating a career in the arts, But there is something else that interests you as well. Don't go for the arts. If you want to make a comfortable living, go into the arts if that is what you live and breathe, that you always have your sketchbook with you, or you're always thinking about the arts, or you practice your instrument 5 hours a day. You can't live without it. Then by all means, go into it and with all your heart. Make a commitment. But if you feel that veterinary medicine might interest you as well, or being a plumber, I hear the trades are desperately looking for younger people. The arts are a damn hard way of making a living. And again, coming back to my earlier point, when you're 18, you might think it's fine to couch surf or to rough it or to live in a garret and basically make very little stretch a very long way. Once you hit 55, your outlook will likely change. I can pretty much guarantee you that. So bear that in mind. However, if you do want to go into the arts and you want to make as good a living at it as possible, cultivate some business savvy, some money savvy. Don't think that because you're an artist you have to be laissez-faire with your money, or sloppy or flaky. And be flexible. You will likely have several income streams in your life. And by that I don't necessarily mean waiting tables or driving taxi, although that's a legitimate choice or a legitimate alternative. And I certainly have on occasion kept myself alive with odd jobs and handyman work when things got rough. But be flexible, have different income streams, things that are related to your core work. If somebody says, "Oh, can you do this and that?" Say, "Yeah, sure I can." That's what the internet is for. Fake it till you make it. You'll find out. You'll grow with that assignment. So those would be my two parting pieces of advice. The other thing is that I'm a strong believer in true richness being found in how little you can be happy with, rather than stuffing your life full of material goods. So if you can learn to be content and happy with a more zen, a more minimal lifestyle, certainly that will go a long way in making your life as an artist a happier one, and possibly financially a more even-keeled one.